Internet. Welcome back to That Summer Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, joined as always by Jose Fuentes.
Hi, I forgot my superhero pose.
And Ron Fortier.
Howdy, everybody, and I'm back.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Hopefully safe from the internet goblins for
Oh,
tonight.
please.
You know,
Send us good vibes.
I didn't realize that gremlins were a real thing until you started having internet, like network issues or whatever, every now and again when we stream.
Oh, yeah. I mean, hey, we're not the only ones. Like, what was it? I think it was Sunday night show with Roland and the gang.
Yeah.
And they supposedly had some actor as a guest.
Was that G-Rod? That's when G-Rod was on, right?
Yeah, and his internet went on. They just connected with him and he was gone. And boy, do I know that feeling. So apparently that's widespread, okay, even in Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah. You can't really escape it. Okay. But yes, tonight we're going to be talking about the best arcs in comics. So after last week, we talked about what goes into creating an arc, how you go plotting it, pacing it, how it's different from a floppy. We have a Brent joining us as well.
Hello.
Hey,
welcome back.
Long time no see, amigo.
I know.
Dude, when you came out of that cave, did your eyes go blind because you had to readjust to the daylight?
I was in the daylight. I wanted to come back in. It's too hot out there.
It is.
Yeah. Good to be back. I had to work on this special project and I got done with that. So
nice.
There you go. I'm taking time to actually create. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So like I said, tonight we're going to be talking about the best arcs in comic books. So last week we talked about the craft of the comic book arc. So differences between single floppies, graphic novels, how you go about planning a storyline that you know is going to go on for multiple issues, and certain through lines. We didn't really talk on artistic styling, how if you're an independent, you usually have the same artist, but if you're working for Big Two, you'll notice that every arc they switch to artists, which is kind of a weird thing. But yeah, so tonight we're going to talk about the best arc. So this is going to be and the thing about the best in any sort of art form or subjective media is that the best isn't really kind of a thing. It's more so, what is our personal best? What do we think speaks to us most about the medium? What do you think we like the most? I know personally I have opinions on certain things I think are more technically well executed, but things I like more than them just because I think they're cool. So we'll be talking about our favorite arcs in comics, and what stands out to us about them, and hopefully do some little bit of dissecting on and retro engineering on the science or craft that may have went into putting together these arcs. So we're not saying that by the end of the show we will know how to write Days of Future Past, but you'll at least understand how it impacts an audience. So opening up the floor here, let's just pop in. And I mentioned Days of Future Past, one of my favorite arcs. On the flip side, the Court of Owl saga on Batman. I think they both do different things, but for you guys, what are some of your favorite arcs? You can get into it as deep as you want, or you can hold off on that until we've kind of passed the ball around a little bit. But what do you think are some of your favorite arcs, or some of you think are some of the most technically well executed arcs in comics that you've encountered?
My intro back into comics was in middle school, and I took a test. We were doing testing, and I forgot to bring paper and anything to draw with, and so I had nothing to do. And if you guys know me, idle hands, I'm gonna destroy something or whatever. Well, got kid next to me like, yo, dude, you want to read one of my comics? I'm like, sure, give me something to do, right? It was Detective Comics Mud Pack storylines. One of my favorite Batman storylines is the Mud Pack storyline, because it was my reintroduction into like Batman, into comics in general. Because I read them when I was younger, but then there's like a whole gap of, oh, nobody's reading comics; those are for nerds. Like I don't want to be associated with that. And then I realized I'm a nerd person. So, but yeah, Detective Comics, Mud Pack, my all-time favorite, and then from there it mostly DC, but Crisis on Infinite Earths, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't like Crisis on Infinite Earths, I don't know if we can be friends. And Age of Apocalypse from Marvel. Those are my top three.
Oh yeah, Age of Apocalypse.
I mean, I'm thinking when Jose, I got a hold of Jose after crashing last week and said, so what are we doing next week? And he told me what the topic was. And I go back, to like the 1960s when I'm collecting comics, right? And man, I mean, I read through dozens and dozens of story arcs, Marvel and DC both. Off the top of my head, I think one of my all-time favorite DC arcs was definitely The Long Halloween.
Ooh, nice.
With Tim Sale art on Batman, all right, and the whole Scarecrow. I mean, really, absolutely riveting. Every single issue was just mind-bogglingly beautiful, right? And once you finish it, you just couldn't wait for the next one. And it did what I think what really most good arcs do. Like I said, I remember it amongst all these other things I've read. That's step number one. And number two, the second DC collected it. I mean, I was at the comic shop, first guy at the counter, okay? Because I wanted to reread this again and again, all right? Jeff Loeb wrote it. I think it was a brilliant way to focus on one of the classic Batman villains. And again, nobody could touch Tim Sale for that book. He was born to draw that book. All right, so now there's that for DC. Now I want to put out this idea to you guys because I think justifiably it is an arc, and perhaps the greatest comic art ever created, assembled, put together, and whatever. And that's basically the birth of the Marvel age. I mean, I'm talking 1960, like I said, because here I am 13, and I start that summer with no such thing as Marvel. By the end of that summer, we've gotten Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Iron Man. Then we get into fall, and we get Thor. By the winter, we've got Ant-Man and the Hulk. We go into the spring of 1961, right? And the genius of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby is you have this feeling that, okay, we're just getting all these great comics, all right? These wonderful, exciting, bombastic comics with these great characters, and we're just moving straight ahead without the thought that these conniving guys are really telling us one story. Because comes the summer of 61, and they bring them all together because they found this iceberg with this character frozen in the ice. And suddenly we've got the bloody Avengers. And I look back on it now and realize that was one story. All right. I mean, literally the birth of Marvel, the Marvel age was the entire 1960 and 61 output from Lee, Kirby, Steve Ditko, Don Heck, John Romita Sr. I mean, this bullpen came together and created a universe. That, I think, is the greatest comic art ever done. And Image might have come close to some degree, right? But you know what? It's got to boggle your mind when you think of Lee and these great artists sitting around together in the bullpen back up in New York, which, by the way, they've packed up their bags and left, ironically. imagine a New York City without Marvel anymore.
Is it weird that I thought they left like 5-6 years ago?
No, they still
I
had
didn't realize
offices.
they were still there.
Yeah, not anymore
Well,
though.
Since when?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's
They just got rid of their Marvel Entertainment CEO brand and replaced him with another fellow. I don't remember his name, but his resume is stellar. He was an editor at DC for many years and at Marvel as well. And basically, Marvel is finally said, that's it. Everything's going to be done out of California. And that news was, I think it was just last week.
Yeah.
That was made public.
Wow.
So, your kid comic, growing up in the later 20th century, early 21st century, all comics was sent to Marvel and DC in New York. No more. They're after this move. They're all gone. That's it. Everybody's in California.
Yeah, which, if you're a longtime Silverline believer and know our history is Malibu,
yeah,
I think my internet's dying a little bit. I think I got the gremlins.
Well, I guess everyone's leaving New York right now. Except I was going to say everyone's leaving California too. So I don't know what's going on.
No, California's going to fall into the ocean. There's a difference.
Well, I got a kick out of a comment I saw online the other day about they're remaking Escape from New York. No, really? This time, really?
Yeah.
Where's Kurt Russell when you need him? Come on, Snake.
Call me Snake.
I think my internet was dying a little bit there by saying if you're a longtime Silverline believer, our history is Malibu Comics. So really, it's just coming home at this point.
Yeah. Yes.
Huh.
Dear Roland, do not move us to California, please.
Huh. I don't know. Like, does that mean all the Marvel heroes are going to shift over to California and
I mean,
Yeah.
does it really matter? Oh, well, that's true. Someone made a post about Spider-Man moving to California. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh man, let's not.
I know, right?
Spider-Man
swinging by the top of the truck.
I think the nostalgia factor, okay, with Marvel doing it, is only because Stan Lee purposely made New York a character in the Marvel universe, right? I mean, we get to the 50s, and prior to the launching of Marvel, all you had was DC, and for whatever reason, okay, from their inception, Detective Comics basically said, well, our heroes exist in these make-believe worlds. Right. So Superman lives in Metropolis. Well, yeah, we know what Metropolis is. Then comes Batman. Batman lives in Gotham City. Okay, well, yeah, take out your thesaurus. We all know what we're talking about here, right? But for whatever reason, I think they eschewed being locked into a real world. We've got fiction here, so we can play with the backgrounds and whatever and not get locked into, this is going to be authentic Queens or Manhattan or whatever, right? Little blah, blah, blah. Because obviously New York's one of the most, well-known metropolises in the world and has all these recognizable landmarks and parks and whatever, but not Stan Lee. Stan Lee comes along and says, oh, no. Fantastic Four is going to have the Baxter Building smack dab in the middle of Times Square, okay? And Peter Parker is going to live in the suburbs, okay, of Queens, but he's going to go to school downtown. And there was never any doubt, okay? The Marvel characters lived in our world.
Right.
And that was exemplified by New York City. So again, like I said, the nostalgia factor of Marvel leaving New York, okay? I mean, are we going to, as you guys are talking, I mean, are we going to see the Marvel heroes in Los Angeles, in Burbank, maybe San Diego, at the con?
Oh. I don't know.
I mean,
backgrounds are important. I mean, it's It's part of the heart of what that whole company was always all about.
I think Skynet has a hold of Tim. Oh, Tim.
The gremlin that got me now is on to Tim. Yeah, look out. It's contagious.
If you think about it, though, I mean, it will never make sense for the focus of Marvel to leave New York City, because frankly, it never really made a lot of sense anyway. You know, all the heroes became heroes and wanted to fight crime in New York City, as if there's no crime anywhere else. Right. But it didn't matter, because it was like, that's where the show is, everyone. So let's just go. And I don't see that ever changing. I mean, it was funny. Like, I'm really digging the Fantastic Four. Ryan North is a writer. He's actually moved the Fantastic Four out to like rural Arizona. But what's funny is they also have the ability to teleport right back to New York City, which is like, why? Is that really where all the badness is? And the answer is, in the MCU, absolutely. Or Marvel Universe, regular Marvel Universe. It's all New York City. That's where all the badness happens.
They keep traveling or teleporting back for shawarma.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or maybe to get away from the heat. I mean, I guess I understand. But anyway, so yeah, it is really weird to think about. It is. Actually, when Tim comes back, he can tell us if Malibu actually cast their action in California. I have no idea. And now I'm like, that's a totally different ballgame. I mean, you don't have winter in California. So that like removes a lot of the story base from a lot of stories that came out of New York City. Right. Tim, do you know if the stories in the Malibu universe took place in California?
Some of them did, but it's kind of like the same thing with where Marvel is after the introduction of West Coast Avengers, where this kind of became United States in general.
Okay.
Right. So, exactly.
If Marvel, I mean,
I know he's saying something.
Imagine.
I hate the fact that he's not going to find out that we can't hear him until it's too late.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
He's just keeping us in suspense. He's only going to say a few words, and then we're on the edge of our seat, always waiting to listen.
Yeah, but you don't really know that what Malibu was actually going to do was blow the lid off the whole thing by
right.
Click. Yeah. Oh well.
Nope. Court of Owls. Letting it happen for Tim.
I'd like some vowels for that string of not vowels. Right. So what did I miss over the last couple months?
I mean, a lot. A lot-ish.
Yeah.
Ron had some books come out that look lovely.
Yes, definitely.
Out, right? I know, like I said, I know you've been hiding, working on projects. You know, working on the secret project you're working on. So I know it's kind of just you coming out of the cave, like I said, and it's like, okay, what's going on, guys?
Yeah.
But Beyond the Stars came. Was it 5?
Yep.
Was
Number
funded,
5.
and the chrome foil cover for that looks gorgeous with Andrea's art on it.
Yeah.
And let's see what else.
Which led to a fun episode, Brant, whereby I shared a lot of Andrea's early character sketches for the series, i.e., to help promote 5 being at the funding site, and the fact being that we're almost finished. We have 1 issue left, and the miniseries is done. So I 2 or 3 days before the show, I sent Tim and Jose both tons of sketches that Andrea had done. And then what we did that night, and I give credits to the guys, David, Tim, and Jose, decided to have a little fun with those sketches. All right. I.e., we got into the whole subject of the idea of comics being a creative effort, right, between two different sensibilities. And I had given the guys the basic history of how that series came about, how Andrea had the basic ideas for the characters, how I played with some of those ideas, how I changed some of them. He was receptive to those changes, how we worked the plot and whatever, all of which led up to, I said, well, look, let's try this. All right. Let's pull up the sketches one by one, and I will identify the characters, their purpose in the plot, et cetera, some characteristics of each character. And then you guys determine who created that particular character, myself or Andrea. And that was the game we played for the second. What's that, Jose?
I did not do well.
It was more than just picking. It was a case of, who do you think created the character, Ron or Andrea, the artist, and why do you think that? And it was fascinating. It was a lot of fun to see people's interpretations based on the artwork.
Right.
And, what I detailed as the characters and what they knew of the series up until this point. So you guys got some right. I mean, you got several of them right. But yeah, for the most part, I think got wrong, but that's okay too. It was a good show. It was a lot of fun. So
you should be changing internet providers with the move, so that should be better.
Yeah. So Tim's gremlin is not working with him to get back on. So the show must go on. And yeah, but Tim's going to be moving soon, and he's going to get way better service.
Hot dog.
Well,
yeah.
Only one of us wears a crown.
Right. I had to provide it myself. I couldn't get Mackenzie she wouldn't bring me one at New York City Comic Con. So I had to get my own crown. All right. So I guess back to subject. Brent, did you say your favorite story arcs?
All right. So as always, I let you guys go first because I haven't really done my homework and I wanted to think about it. But one thing that occurred to me was I want to make sure I have my own definition of what an arc is, and it's not the same as a chapter, or rather a series of chapters. So like, I love Watchmen. I wouldn't call that an arc. At least that's the way I look at it. So when I think about an arc, I think about story elements that are in a story that is not necessarily about those elements, but that they're in place and that they proceed along a broader story and come into more and more fruition by the time the story is reaching its conclusion, which might be splitting hairs to some people. But here's my example, and it's actually my favorite one because it is literally the reason I got into comics in the first place, which was, I don't know if I've told this story or not. I loved G.I. Joe figures when I was a kid. And then I heard they had a comic book. Oh, cool. So I picked up issue 12. What's weird is if I had picked up issue 11, I would have thought it was interesting because it had the snowmobile on the cover, and I had the snowmobile, and then I would have been like, oh, that's very nice. And if I had picked up issue 13, I would not know what was going on, and I would have gotten frustrated and left. But what I did is I picked up issue 12, which was the first installment of a big story that the first issue was called 3 Strikes for Snake Eyes. And what happened was 4 G.I. Joes are sent to investigate the toppling of a banana republic in Central America or something like that. And they find out Cobra's doing something. And they have this really cool Eskimo mercenary named Quinn. And he and Snake Eyes are fighting. And at the end, it looks like Snake Eyes dies and Quinn dies. And everyone's like, oh, no. And I remember going, I have to know what happens next. Mm-hmm. But what's weird is, after reading 13, it also, I mean, each story is self-contained in that it has a beginning and a middle and an end to the issue. It doesn't just stop and, you know, like someone stopped reading. It wasn't like a chapter where you know something's coming next. It's self-contained, but you know there's more there to keep you moving forward. And I was like, I have got to know what's going on. And it went all the way through issue 19, which is 7 issues, right?
Yeah, right. 12
which is an eternity for a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really.
I with it because I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever read.
Yeah.
Not only that, I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever encountered. So I love telling the story because I went into comics as a toy guy and I came out as a comics guy. I never quit. I never walked away from comics. I actually tried once or twice, never could. And it wasn't because, I mean, yes, I love stories. I love the visual element. I just love superheroes. I love the approach comics take. But one thing I love more than anything is that it makes you wait for something good. I love that about...
You like the waiting?
I kind of love that about life. Yes, I cannot binge a television show. I have to watch an episode and let it sit in my brain and let it develop a desire in me to watch the next episode. I feel like, in a weird, stupid, pretentious way, I feel like it makes me a better person. Like I'm sitting there going, be patient. Good things come to those who wait. And I'm not just sounding Hannibal Lecter-ish in my mind. I'm actually saying to myself, no, this is a good story, which means you just sit there and let it work its magic on you. If you need it right away, I have all these trade paperbacks on my bookshelf. I can read them all. I can get an entire story told over several issues all at once. The odds of me forgetting them also very high because I do a lot of stuff. But if I have to wait and ingest it slowly, it will stick with me a lot longer. That's just something I love about comics. That's probably why I will never quit buying floppies either. So, and that's probably my favorite arc. Also, you mentioned Age of Apocalypse.
Yep.
I loved that so much. I was newly out of college by then. But do you remember when they dropped the bombshell? Sorry, I'm going to drop spoilers. If you guys don't know, shame on you. But we find out that
like what 14 years or something.
Yeah, I know. Well, dude, longer. Wasn't that when they find out that Onslaught was that when Onslaught was there? Onslaught happened and then Age of Apocalypse.
Onslaught at first, then Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, I love the Onslaughts.
Onslaught series was great. The artwork for it.
He's actually an amalgam of Magneto and Xavier. I remember being floored by that, and I don't get floored very often by comics. I was like, holy cow, I didn't see that coming. And then when Age of Apocalypse happens and Marvel ends all the X books, do you remember that? And relaunches them under new names. And I'm like, you can't do that. Can they do that? Again, that's just, I couldn't believe that that a publisher could do something as radical as that. Which is, again, I just love it when they catch me unawares. I love that.
I liked during the Onslaught, that was probably the whatever connecting issue of that. I can't even tell you what number it was of Incredible Hulk. Mm-hmm. The Incredible Hulk issue, because he's in there smashing through like I'm gonna go get Onslaught myself. Nobody trusts me to do it, so he starts going in and whatnot. Heroes are trying to stop him. He's smashing them down, just like destroying the heroes, like just pounding because they're trying to stop him, right? Mm-hmm. And he beats the crap out of everyone until he gets to Onslaught, and then Onslaught flicks a lever in his brain to bring him back to reality, because the entirety of him attacking all the heroes was all in his head. But he showed all the heroes what the Hulk was seeing. And so they're all like, That may have been like the only Hulk issue I ever bought off the newsstand. I have a few issues here and there that I picked up at like thrift shops or stuff like that, but that's probably like at the time the current only Hulk issue I ever paid for, like full price, because it was a connecting. And then when I read it, I was just like, oh man, nobody's going to like him ever again.
Yeah, if you're going to do a company crossover, do it so that everyone is affected. Not like they're like, oh, here we go. Oh, let's show up and, there's a big bad guy and we'll take him out and we'll do some handshakes. And then we'll walk away back to our own series. No, it needs to be something where their lives are changed or as much as they can be in comics. So, yeah, I love it when they're good.
So you guys both have like several books under your belt. I only have like one or two, so I get to ask this question. Now, not just counting like mainstream comics or independent comics, which is your favorite storyline that you've written?
Oh, we talked about this on messaging.
You and I did, but not.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, because it was part of the whole arc thing, and it's really one story. That was, I knew going in was going to take me a hell of a long time to tell. And this goes back to my selling now comics on bringing the Green Hornet back. So, I mean, that whole making that process happen, being a part of that, what a lot of people don't realize is that I spent a good 2.5 months working on that proposal, because going into it, I was such a huge fan of the 60s show with Van Williams and Bruce Lee. And so I was well aware of the fact that there was a radio program. And at the same time, there were two Universal cliffhanger serials. And eventually, the Green Hornet did appear during World War II in comics. Okay. So I could have easily come up with a new Green Hornet for the late 80s, early 90s, and just said, Green Hornet, Kato, here they are, boom, 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 and away we go. All right, use the same traditional origin from the first Green Hornet on the radio to the TV Hornet, whatever. But there's this bug in me about, it's like I'm the new kid on the block. And this character is been shaped and reshaped by all these other great writers, not only, in just comics, but on radio and all the radio episodes for the many years it was on WXYZ out of Detroit. But then again, 2 serials, each one, I think 14, 15 chapters long, Hollywood writers. Okay. And then we had the TV series with 26 episodes. So a lot of other people had, sweated blood and tears with these characters and developing them and putting them out there and making them fan favorites over generations. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I could tie those all together and make that one big family? All right. Like grandfather, father, son, and work it from World War II, from the Radio Hornet, which would be the Radio Hornet and the Serial Hornets, to the TV Hornet, to the post, World War II, the TV series in the 60s, and then we launch our guy. Okay. So I sit down and this is no lie. If we ever get together at the party, you meet my wife, she'll tell you, I had all these notebooks, I had all these calendars and whatever, and I started creating a timeline of when the radio programs were on, when they debuted, how long they were on, and found out everything I could find out about them. I have a good friend who lives in Massachusetts named Will Murray, and Will is, without a doubt, one of the leading pulp historians in this country today. And if you ever want to learn anything about Doc Savage or Secret Agent X or The Shadow or all this, Will's the guy you go to. So at this time, Will was one of the assistant editors and chief contributing writers to Starlog magazine. And I gave Will a call and said, hey, Will, I says, I am trying to put together a package on the Green Hornet that I want to try to sell to, some comic company at the San Diego Comic-Con. Well, next thing you know, I get this manila envelope in the mail, and Will had photocopied 3 articles that he had written over the last 4 or 5 years on the Green Hornet, the TV show, the serials, and the radio program. And there was all this raw data and dates and whatever. So I am literally stretched out on the living room rug with pencils, pens, notebooks, and trying to come up with a timetable, and this blah, 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 blah. Okay. It took me, like I said, almost 2 months to make it work. And I couldn't make it work from father to son because of the time that things actually happened in real history. It just didn't connect. And it was driving me nuts, guys. I mean, absolutely nuts, okay? Because I so want to do this generation thing. And then one day, I'm looking at the timeline, and I went, all right, he can't be the first Green Hornet that has a son, because the son would be too old, too fast. But what if he had a kid brother who wasn't a vigilante? What if his kid brother went into like engineering? Okay, so I create this kid brother for the original Green Hornet. And so while the Green Hornet's fighting bad guys during World War II, at the end of World War II, his brother's an engineer, gets married, has a family, and has a couple of sons. One of those sons grows up, finds out his uncle is the Green Hornet, and decides, I am taking the mantle. I am going to follow in my Uncle Britt's, So he becomes the Green Hornet. Well, remember, he had a kid brother. And we work out. So it was uncle to nephew, uncle to nephew, uncle to nephew. And somehow or other, you want to talk about hitting a nerve in where this all lies. That was the same idea of the Green Hornet being a grandnephew of the Lone Ranger. Fact. And so I was just carrying on what, again, other great minds and writers had done. And I write this a bloody long plot outline, starting with the last case of the original Green Hornet, how he retires, who his family is. I talk about the day his nephew walks in the den as he's writing his memoirs and sees the mask sitting on the desk, right? I talk about the fact that he also had a daughter who becomes a district attorney as she grows older and is going to become the TV Green Hornet's confidant. And I'm developing primary characters, my 3 different Green Hornets, their relatives and whatever. This thing's like 40 pages long. I go and sell the thing. I go to Chicago and meet the folks at Now Comics. They grab this thing from me. They go to the licensor in New York. They get the rights because the licensors fell in love with the concept. And I get a call, and it says, they bought it. Start writing script number 1. And I go, okay. And I think at that time they were doing like 24-page comics, right? Man, you want to talk about, you can boast all you want, but finally when you got to, put up and shut up, it was like, yeah, right. Okay, I've got to write this entire thing out as a series. Right. Okay. How do I break it up? Where do I break it up? I go back to my copy of the proposal and I start checking off where I want to break up the comics into 24-page segments. And then realized the first issue was going to take much longer than 24 pages, would probably come in at around 32 because it was that important. It was the foundation. It was the basis leading up to it. I send the script in. In those days, FedEx overnight and Chicago gets it. Sure enough, I get a call from the publisher. What are you doing? This is 32 pages long, right? And man, you want to talk about trying to sell something, guys, right? I went, hey, boss, excuse me, but do you realize you're bringing back a character that hasn't been in comics in over 25 years? Shouldn't issue number 1 be a special that maybe charge more for because it's got 32 pages? And I could hear the ka-chings ringing through the phone, right? He bought it. He went, yeah, that makes sense. All right, good idea, Ron. Great. But from now on, 24 pages. I said, yeah, right, 24 pages. Okay.
Boy, you snake oil pitched them.
Oh, man. And then they went and got Jim Steranko to do the cover.
No kidding. Blew
everybody's mind, including mine. Are you kidding? In the meantime, that's it. I've got the foundation. Now to start writing. 24 pages, stop, send it in. Keep writing. 24 pages, stop, send it in. We're 3 issues in, and the story's moving along. I'm putting action and adventure with each Hornet. All right. Now we're dealing with the second Hornet and how he's going to, go stage left. All right. He ends up having a heart attack. Keep writing, moving 24 pages, turn it in. Issue 4. Issue 5. I introduce Bruce Lee's kid sister, Mishi, who is going to become my Kato. Issue 6, I set up the attacks on the family. The criminals expose themselves, and the new Green Hornet, Paul Reed, takes off after them all by himself. Issue 6, that was 6. We got this thing with the 7. This thing with the 7 issues, right? And in the end of issue number 6, he's in a warehouse. He's surrounded by thugs. He's got his little gas gun, right? And they're about to kick the shit out of him and kill him with no doubt whatsoever. When, as they're coming at him, all of a sudden these shurikens come out of nowhere and hit these 2 thugs in the arms, right? And pretty much out. And Reed turns around and looks up, and standing on this giant crate is Mishi Kato in her outfit, which is basically a black leather jacket, black pants and boots, biker boots or whatever, and the mask, okay? And she's standing there in a fighting stance. And Paul looks up at her, and it ends up being a full page, almost a half-page panel. And all he says is, Kato, exclamation mark, to be continued, right? I mean, yeah, this thing went off like a rocket. From issue 1 on, it went off like a rocket. The fans ate it up. We sold 250,000 copies of number 1. It went back to a second printing. All right. I had comic shop people telling me during that run, they were selling as many copies of the Green Hornet as they were selling Marvel and DC comics titles. Okay. And so issue number 7, everything came together. We wrapped it up. She's his new Kato. He's going to be the Green Hornet, and they're ready to take on whatever challenges lie ahead. Honestly, had no idea it was going to take that long to take what I had done as far as the outline or whatever and make it work in a comic series. All right. And trust me, there were times during, issues 5, issue 6, expecting, the publishers like, wrap this thing up. Okay. I mean, this is going on forever and ever. Okay. But he couldn't do that because the sales warranted it. We were selling issues. And as long as that kept steady, I had like this umbrella over me going, okay, they like it. I got to keep doing this. They like it. I got to keep doing it. And we got to the end, right? And so, yeah, it wrapped up. And I got to tell you guys, the epilogue to all of this, all right, on the cover of issue number 7, you see both of them together for the first time ever. And it's like an action pose where they're coming at the viewer, right? All right. So that gets published. I'm writing issue 8, 9, coming up with new stories, new ideas, moving right along. I think 3 or 4 months go by. My wife and I having dinner watching Jeopardy, right? And lo and behold, right? One of the categories was comic book crime fighters, and the guy, it was like the Daily Double, and this guy hit it, or this girl hit it, and Alex Trebek goes, "All right," he goes, "This comic just came out earlier last summer, and it's a big hit. And who's this crime fighting duo?" And up comes the cover of issue number 7, right? I mean, my wife and I sitting there going, "What?" Right? Because, of course, the girl goes, "Batman and Robin." All right, that's my long-winded story for this episode.
So close.
It's just writing long stories. I mean, it's just, again, I mean, you have to in some way commit yourself to the story. All right, Brant, we've talked about this, several times. All right, every story has its length. All right, and you can cut it short, and it's not going to work. You can pad it, and it's not going to work. All right. As a writer, there has to be something in you that senses that balance. All right. Too much, too little. No, this is the story. This is what it's going to take. This is how many pages, how many issues. All right. So, yeah, that's everything I've ever written since all those days, short and long or whatever. As far as an arc, that 7 issues was easily the best arc I ever put down on paper, and I'm still proud of it to this day. I have my copies, and every now and then I'll nostalgically look back on them and remember the challenges, the trepidation of could I pull it off, could I make it work, all those kind of things.
That's great.
Yeah, I know we talked about that, like I said, over Messenger, but man, the internet needed to hear that story. So
Indeed. These
all
things
right,
in a vacuum. Well, I mean, I really just have 2 comic series under my belt, and both of them are ongoing. But I will say, I have really, echoing what you said, Ron, I really enjoyed telling the story of Scott Anders and Kalis over time. And I mean, basically this, if I could sum it up, it would be Scott Anders was a kid during World War II who joined the military underage, was found by an agent of the OSS who basically drafted him to be a spy for the Nazis. He did so. He didn't really find out very much, except when he came back, he found out that his father had murdered his mother and was enraged and murdered his father in prison as a result. And the OSS agent who had recruited him managed to keep him around because of that, keep him out of prison, but only by having him join the newly minted CIA, which then was why he was in the pole position to come on board the Kalis project, which was the CIA launching a mission into space to investigate this rift, where he goes and he disappears, and then things happen to him. And so when he comes back, he's a different man. He is on a mission now. And I mean, that's really fun. But frankly, all that was seeded into other stories about Scott. The main story was he's back from wherever he was. Where has he been? Why does he want to go back so bad? Let's, we'll tell this story. But in the background, I use flashbacks, I use different people from his past. But really, what I'm trying to do is, and people can tell me if I'm succeeding or not, but I'm trying to tell the story of a guy who really screwed up badly and has been trying to make up for it ever since. And I already know how the series is going to end. He will succeed to a point. And And not a single issue was about him having this cute, huge character moment. Oh, this is where I killed my dad. I mean, I think that was in the third issue, but that was told in flashbacks. That was not the main action of
Right.
the
Right.
story. Because, you guys have experienced this. When you really have huge character development as the front and center action of a comic, you
Right.
had better know what you're doing, or audiences are going to be like, "Wait a minute, where's the fisticuffs?
Right.
Where's the gunfire? All they're doing is sitting and talking."
Yeah.
And like Peter David did this famous issue of X Factor. Do you remember this one? I want to say it was the early 90s, I think, when all of them each member of X Factor is getting psychoanalyzed, and they're just talking about their weird past and why they are the way they are. And audiences loved it, but that was because Peter David wrote it and he was at the top of his game. Like, you can't, that should fill you with fear if a new guy comes along and says, "I want to tell us a comic book story where all they're doing is sitting and talking about stuff." Yeah, okay. Can we do that as a secondary, like a B story? And that's what I've been trying to do with this whole thing. But I just really love it because, Ron, I know exactly what you're talking about. The more you really get immersed into a story that you really believe in, and where you actually feel like you have something you want to say, the more you are going to make sure you do as best a job as you can. Like, I phoned in some projects, but not on Kalis. I really am just like, I love this guy. I couldn't do a disservice to the story that I've built around him. So, yeah.
It's, I guess, again, it's that, and it probably sounds terribly naive, but it's the truth factor of what you're writing. And trust me, okay, I know, I mean, just listening to you talk, all right, one of the things you never ever do is underestimate your readers, ever. Okay, they're gonna know if you're phoning it in. Okay, they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
All right. If all you're doing is spinning the same old tropes between the action and the background, and the history and the angst and all this good stuff. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, and that's the word I fall back on, the truth of the story. All right. If this character means so much to you, then, man, I mean, you sweat bullets putting that on paper. All right. This is the character you want your readers to know. All right. And everything he does is mapped out by you. It may seem inconsequential, but not to you. All right. There's a purpose for every scene, for every issue. And it's that story that you have been shaping in your head for who knows how long. And now here's that opportunity to put it down on paper, to work with an artist, all right, and bring that vision to life, all right? And the challenge being, okay, I can pretty much capture 90% of comic fans with these rousing action sequences, okay? But that's a flash in the pan. If I'm going to give him weight, there has to be talking heads. There has to be, again, the bounce back and forth. And I've been doing this so long, and I still get nervous about talking head scenes. I do. It's just natural, all right? But my North Star is, this is the character. I need this talking head page. You have to meet this character. You have to know who he or she is, or the rest of the story makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I go back to why the Marvel Cinematic Universe worked so well, at least for the first 3 phases, and the DC one didn't. And it was because they did the equivalent of the talking heads. So when you had Captain America Civil War, you genuinely were upset. I had people genuinely upset that Captain America and Iron Man were fighting. They're like, they're friends. Why can't they talk it out? And the fact was, they tried. And you were like, okay, so this was not a manipulation to just try to get 2 of the biggest guys in the room so they would fight. They were friends. They tried to talk it out. they had their talking head moments. In fact, they had several of them.
Yep.
And they were all very well written and they were believable. And then you had DC, who was like, let's get Batman and Superman to fight. Let's just have them fight. They don't need to talk about anything. And fans were so mad. They were like, you are doing a disservice to the two characters we love most in comics.
Yep.
So the talking head moments, I mean, they don't seem to sell comics, but that is why the fans are aging. I was, the guys who read Spider-Man when they were 20 are the guys who are reading Spider-Man when they're 50.
Yeah.
They don't need the fisticuffs as much, but what they need is emotional resonance and, frankly, some logic.
Right.
And you spend time really developing that through conversation, through themes, through current events and how they reflect in the world. People are going to come back for that stuff.
Always.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally. All right.
I just want to hit our chat real quick. We had a couple of messages and whatnot. One of them was Tommy with the Florimonte flyby. How do you do, gents? Y'all having a good show? We are. We're
down a man, but
we're down 2 men. Dave is at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot my computer does that.
This makes you happy, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we got Pops with the Hey Yo Gents.
Yeah.
So, well, Pops, how you doing? Always in the back watching us, keeping an eye on us.
Yeah, we don't get too unruly.
That's right. So from an artistic point of view, you guys were talking about, like, sometimes, the talking heads are important, right? I will say from an artistic point of view, my experience and my understanding so far is that talking head pages don't sell, right? That really is much. I mean, if you have a diehard fan, you'll sell those pages, but like, obviously everyone wants the action scene, but we have those pages for a reason, right? Those pages, they help fuel the story on, not just the fights. The fights help fuel the story too, but like those talking heads, that sets pacing, that sets timing, that sets things up for those, possible action scenes in, further in the story, further in the book. I say that to say, collectors, buy those talking head pages.
and I feel the need to interject and say, I don't literally mean a talking head piece. It's funny, I'm using media terms. I don't mean necessarily talking head drawings or images. Like, one of my favorite talking head moments is between this book I'm writing, Cape Town, where I actually told the artist it's two superheroes running along rooftops and flying between. So they're talking, they're having their heart to heart, they're having an emotional connection, but you're also getting their power sets. How do they feel about each other's power sets? How do they feel in this, the great skyline shots? I think we even got a double page spread in there. That's where the artist gets to go crazy. You don't have to have two guys in a room talking, although that's
right. You don't necessarily mean sitting down at a cafe chatting for like 3 pages long, right? You're like you said, it can be running across the rooftop. Spider-Man has a inner monologue conversation with himself for like 4 pages while swinging across the skyline.
Right, exactly. And it's ironic. This whole conversation is going full circle. We're going back to New York again, right? and yeah, I mean, here we are, like magnets being drawn, right? Moths to the flame, if you will. I mean, in one of the issues of the Boston Bombers series I'm doing with Rob Davis, I had this sequence where one of my main characters is working in a charity office in downtown Manhattan, and this guy comes to see her, chauffeured. He's one of the more important people in the city, and sends his chauffeur in to get my character. My character comes out, gets in the limo, and they start driving. And as I was planning out the sequence, it was going to be talking heads, And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to put them in the limo. They're going to drive. I've got all this ridiculous information I have to get out. And again, this character of mine meeting this important person who she never suspected she would meet. All those kinds of things have to happen. But it has to be talking and no action. And then I went, what am I doing? They're in the middle of New York, right? So sure enough, boss man in the back says, take us to Central Park West or whatever. And the limo pulls up, they get out, and they walk through the park having this conversation. So as I'm doing the script, Rob's the artist on the script, right? And I knew Rob got back to me and went, well, if you have to give me a talking head, at least you gave me Central Park to do it in, right? Yeah. And I mean, there are panels where they're like that small in the panel because he's showing you the park, right? And some kid running by is throwing a Frisbee or playing with his dog. Give your artist something fun and exciting to draw, okay? And those talking heads will just keep right on going till they're done and you've achieved your goal. Boom. Yeah. It's a visual media, people. It's a visual media. Never forget that.
And we love it. Obviously, we would.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
I absolutely love every aspect of it. I love when we have conversations, sometimes free form, sometimes, slightly subjected, where, we're talking about the subject that we love. We're talking about comic books. We're talking about the process of comic books. Like specifically for our show, we talk about process of comic books. And tonight we're talking about our favorite storylines, stuff that we've read that captivated us to continue reading comics, like the cliffhangers, cliffhanger issues, like, oh my God, I have to get the next one. Like, why isn't it out yet? I know Brent likes to be patient, but man, I used to stand by the door. Are new books in yet? You know what I mean? Like, you're all like, oh no, it's good. We'll wait on those books. You're crazy.
But then you think later on, it's really fun to care about something that much.
Right. From my point of view, like, I tend to add more detail to characters that I'm more invested in a story. If I'm drawing, I'll be honest. I'll do my best and put 100% for everyone, but sometimes I'll put that little extra % on the character that I like. All right. We are that Silverline show on Tuesday. Make sure you catch our Sunday show at 8 o'clock, our Wednesday show at 9 o'clock. And I can tell you what our subject is for next week if I remember. Actually, I'll pull up the calendar now because why not? Our next, what makes a great comic cover?
Oh,
we might need to hear Rob will pop in on that one too. Next week.
Okay, so before we sign off, hey Brant, welcome back. All right,
yes. Gentlemen,
you were missed, buddy. Okay, and
I missed you guys too.
This episode showed that. Okay, it's really fun to bounce these things off you and back and forth. So again, glad to have you back. And hey, right, Jose? Until next week.
That's right. Make mine
Silverline.
Hi, I'm Chris Olm. I'm the former editor-in-chief of Malibu Comics. Make mine Silverline.